up for Freeman.
What a catch!
That's insane. Or did he make the catch?
Oh, that may be one of the great throws ever made.
He did what?
Back to Derailed. This is the Packer Project, and I am JJ Lahey, your host. And yes, the rumors are true. Jake is here tonight. Jake, we missed you, old buddy. Listen, Friday was not a complete disaster, but that's only because the chat showed up and they did their part. We had Iowa Joe and Tool for this, and United Bates, and everybody was there except for Dershel, because Dershel's doing stupid wedding stuff. Loser.
That's
Everybody
right.
else, though, was there, and they put together one heck of a show, and I was along for the ride. Glad to have you back, buddy. We really missed you. If there was any part of me that was tempted to get, a little feeling big for my britches or a little cocky, like, maybe do I really need old Jake on this podcast? That answer resoundingly was yes, we need Jake on the podcast. Jake, we've goofed around long enough. It's time. We have to start talking about the defense.
Perfect.
And when I say,
all right, Joe asks,
who
who would you have picked at tight end in this draft?
When I say we've goofed around long enough, I mean that I've let you goof around on this one for weeks at this point. We have to do the defense. We got to talk about.
What do you want me to say about the defense? They got players who I wouldn't have picked in the draft. That's what the defense has.
All right. If Mr. Draft Robot, if I let you do a rant about the draft, would that help you get out of your system?
No, I think we can go to Jonathan Gannon. I think this would be a good combo.
Okay. I thought it was interesting thinking about the contrast between Philadelphia Gannon and Arizona Gannon, and trying to project forward where we think there's going to be differences between Gannon's defensive tendencies and what we just saw from Jeff Hafley for 2 years. But part of what I guess makes that not a straightforward comparison is that we kind of got two different versions of Hafley in those 2 seasons. And what's relevant about that is that you got different Hafley because the players changed. He wasn't coaching the same defense both years. And Gannon was talking a lot about how, and this is the direction that the NFL is going, you need to be humble enough and flexible enough to craft your defense around the players that you have. And the Packers have been trying to be real cute all offseason about whether they're going to be a base 4-3 or a 3-4. And everybody's saying, like, oh, it doesn't really matter. You're going to be, in nickel most of the time anyways. Okay. It matters, I think, the most, I would say, to me, when you're trying to figure out what types of linebackers you need to be filling roles out there. Because obviously the defensive front, I think, is going to be really fluid. But these linebackers are going to have extra burden placed on them if we're going this direction. And again, we still have some pretty significant questions about this defensive line, especially on the interior. And these linebackers are really going to need to have some clear directive, I think. There's other positions on the team, other players on the team, that you can just say, hey, Micah Parsons, go be Micah Parsons. Xavier McKinney, go be Xavier McKinney. The linebackers, I think, and we've seen this a lot, it's kind of unfair, they're going to be a lot more in like the cleanup duty role for some of these freelancers. And I think that things can work, but if we're looking at offense and saying, like, gosh, I just don't know about the tight end room, you kind of got this mirrored image on the defense of the linebackers, and it's like, I don't know that we have the linebackers to come in and make everybody else right.
Yeah, would have been helpful to pick one in a deep linebacker class. I think the interesting thing about the Gannon defense, right, is when you look at what happened in Philly, what did they do? They had a great front. I think they had 4 guys with 50 pressures or more in that season where they went to the Super Bowl. I think they had 5 with 45 pressures or more. I want to say it was Graham, Sweat, Reddick. Oh, boy. Hargrave. Those were the 4 with 50 or more. And I think Fletcher Cox had 45.
This is 2022.
Yes, it is.
Yes, you're exactly right. You're exactly right. Reddick had 87. Hargrave
66?
had 66.
Boom, let's go. We're on
Brandon
fire.
Graham, 55. Josh Sweat, 51. Fletcher Cox, 45. And then, after those big 5, just give me a round 10 number, right? Somewhere between 20 to 30, 30 to 40, 40 to 50. Give me what range do you think that the next guy after Fletcher Cox?
It's got to be 10 to 20.
Yeah, it was 16.
Oh, I almost guessed 16. I thought it was. Was it Kaiser White with 16?
It was Milton Williams. Kaiser White was all the way down at 4 pressures.
I know. So I know that was the thing, right, with that defense as well. I think Kaiser White and TJ Edwards combined for 2,000 snaps.
Yeah, so TJ had 1,100 and Kaiser was at 900. So it was
heavily influenced on
2,200 snaps.
2 guys basically doing the heavy lifting at linebacker with little substitution. Remember, they drafted Dean that year. He was coming off injury. They weren't sure if he was going to play, so he didn't have a lot of snaps as a rookie. So they basically leaned on those 2, but they leaned even more on the ability to just go win with 4 up front. Now, when Green Bay's healthy, I think you could say, okay, maybe they can win with 4, and, Van Ness takes a little bit of jump. Wyatt and Parsons, when they're healthy, which who knows when that is. And then you got kind of, insert 4th player here, depending on what down it is, right? So you could have that, but early in the season, you're not going to have that. So it wouldn't shock me if we see more of what Gannon Arizona edition looked like early in the season, and then they're able to, now we can mix it up. What are we going to do now? What do you think we're going to do? I think Evan Williams could do a lot of the Buda Baker creep into the box late, right? Rotate down into coverage. Some of the things that Hafley was doing in the pressure packages, if you remember, obviously the pick against the Lions was a big one that I think a lot of people can go back to. I think you can see a lot of that from Evan Williams this year of this guy might blitz. He might, buzz at the flat. He might be doing a lot of this stuff around the line of scrimmage and in a late rotation capacity. And they let McKinney do a lot of work on the back end in that regard. I think you could see a lot of that. And then I think obviously Bullard's going to be involved around the line of scrimmage a ton as well. So there might be kind of hey, we can recreate Buda Baker in the aggregate with these 2 guys. Let McKinney do what he does best. And we kind of have to bring a little bit more with the pressure packages early and see if we can get home. Because even if we tried to go with 4 with an unhealthy group up front, don't think they're going to get home. Isn't going to matter how good the coverage is on the back end. Right, because if you look at that 22 Philly defense in the secondary, my goodness. Not very my gosh, the names are striking, folks, and it was very clear why, a year and a half later, no, I guess 14 months later, they were like, this DeJean fella, this Mitchell fella, we're going to get those guys. Because it was
the starting cores were
bad.
Darius Slay and the ghost of James Bradbury.
Right.
And at safety, it was Marcus Epps and nobody else.
Reed Blankenship,
CJ Gardner-Johnson was out there for a little bit. Reed Blankenship was out there for 348 snaps, man.
Yeah.
That's
and so
it. C.J. Gardner-Johnson played 800 snaps, but Marcus Epps was out there for over 1,200 snaps by himself. Like, people talk about like a single high safety. It's like, how about we do a single season safety?
Would be good. And the good news is obviously Green Bay feels really good at safety, which they should. Now, they could have had McNeil Warren also, but that's neither here nor there. But I think they trust that room. They trust maybe more of the spine of the defense, maybe minus defensive tackle. But again, Hargrave pairing back up with Gannon, maybe he's healthier than he was last year as well, right? That could be a little bit of a bonus there. Then again, you have a rotation that maybe when everyone's healthy, you feel comfortable about. Because again, if at some point this Green Bay unit, no matter how much you're dialing up the pressure stuff and how much you're wreaking havoc, near the line of scrimmage, at some point that group up front is going to win. They're going to have to win in key spots.
Well,
now they're going to have
sure.
presumably one of the best players on planet Earth, kind of helping carry that torch, right?
Second half of the season.
Yeah, in the second half of the season when they probably need it. But again, I think a lot of it is going to just come down to, and again, this is why it's kind of, I get some of the like unease with this team, because a lot of it is like, hey, this is, a little bit more of how it used to be with Green Bay, because Goody's gotten aggressive in free agency. Obviously did, in 25. It didn't go well. Went really well the first time he took some major swings. But this could be very much a Thompson kind of year of like, hey, we're banking on Jordan Morgan to kind of take up the mantle left tackle. We're banking on Evan Williams to keep going. Edgerrin Cooper takes a step. Van Ness takes a step. And then suddenly it looks a lot better than it maybe did right in the spring when nobody had done anything yet and could prove it. It feels like that type of season. Is it enough? Not sure. We'll find out, but
Gannon was.
But again, defensively, I think it's they're going to do everything they possibly can. I think, especially early in the season, to help the corners out, because they're going to need it. And he would love to help them out by saying, "Hey, we're going to put more bodies to coverage and help you guys out, right, and not make it all on you." The problem is it's I don't know what Wyatt's timeline looks like, but it could be kind of LVN and a bunch of young dudes and Hargrave, right up front. LVN, Hargrave, and a bunch of young bucks up front, where it's kind of like, yeah, we're gonna have to help them out. So it's like, okay, guys, we'd love to help you out more, but we got to go get pressure so you guys aren't sitting out here having to cover for 7 seconds. And so it is going to be a tricky ask, and I don't think we're going to see. And again, even though I think there's a clear strategy that makes the most sense, I don't think we're going to get a clearly defined pattern from him over the course of the full season, because I think I imagine, especially because of who they're playing early in the season, based on the schedule, it's going to be kind of like, there's some things I really like here with what we're doing with the blitz package here, what we're doing with the linebackers here, and how they're aligning and what we can get to from pressure packages with that, right? He's going to still keep that in the bag. But when the guys come back that can rush the passer, we're like, all right, we're going to mix it up. We're going to help you guys out on the boundary. So I do think it's fair to go, for people who are saying, is he going to be like Philly Gannon or is he going to be like Arizona Gannon? No, I don't think it's going to be either. It's going to be very, and again, I hope it's not BS, right? I hope it's not like how he's not coach speak. Oh, you got to tailor it to the players and all that stuff. But I think the reason that I buy it with him saying this is because when you look at Green Bay's drafts, are they drafting for a specific scheme?
They certainly are not.
Right, exactly. They're a traits team, right? They're a traits team.
Yeah.
They're playing a 3-4 with two guys who weigh 270, playing wide 9. Like that's not where you're supposed to play. That's not your position. But we're going to do it. So they're very much a traits-based team. and they say, hey, coaching staff, let's figure it out. Let's see what we can do to make them. Let's see what the coaching staff and the position coaches and the defensive coordinator can do to make these guys better. Right? We'll go find these athletes with a lot of potential. We'll mix in some high floor smarts guys. We'll mix all that in. But we, are going to draft the traits, and that's what they've been about, right? And you can go back to, Gary and Savage. I mean, it obviously wasn't his first draft, but first draft with a lot of capital said, hey, we're going Gary Savage. We're going to get some traits. We're going to get some electric movement skills. We're going to go get the electric thrower of the football who needs some footwork help, right? Who needs some mechanical work. Hey, let's go get the fast corner. I don't know what scheme he can play in, but let's see if we can play in ours, right? Hey, let's go get this 240-pound linebacker who's really, really fast. Let's go get this guy who's a jitterbug rushing the passer with a ton of explosiveness from the same team. Let's see how those guys do. Let's go get this big dude from Iowa who looks like Rashad Gary a little bit. Let's see what he could do, right? Like this is who they are. So I think the good news is Gannon saying that is kind of like, okay, yeah, I don't know what they're drafting for exactly. He probably thinks more so it's the four-man fronts where Hafley was kind of mentioning that, where it's like, yeah, no, Van Ness is a heavy end. Like he's an edge-setting defensive end. That's who he is. And so I think Gannon's, I think not playing to any of that with the coach speak of like, yeah, they're drafting for traits. I'm not going to say that out loud, but it's my job to come in and craft the defense that can fit most of what these guys can do. And that's what we're going to see.
I think that it makes a lot of sense when you look at it from that angle. It makes a lot of sense why Gannon would be an appealing name for LaFleur, because he, if you look at the defenses that he had to work with in Philly and in Arizona, first of all, like, not that Philly didn't have some good players, because they did, but like there were massive holes on that roster, and from a personnel standpoint, those two defenses could not have been more different from each other in terms of like you could not run the same kind of defense both places, and he didn't seem to really mind that. He seems very comfortable with just saying, "Hey, I want to play chess. I want to." He was talking about the importance in his mind of not getting beaten before the snap. So he doesn't want to be really locked in there with really clearly defined guys that it's like, well, we know that they're doing this, and so we're going to go out there and try it. No, he wants fluidity and flexibility. And I think it is true with him, and he really believes this, that you can throw some of the scheme out the window and talk more about beliefs. I think that the bigger thing with Gannon is what are his beliefs. Because when he was talking at his press conference that we had to wait 4 years for, he was emphasizing over and over that he wants to be a defense that is going to take the ball away. He said it over and over again. He said, this game is about the ball. He said, our job is to take it away, get Jordan Love back on the field, execute schematically and technically, and play fast. He defined a good defense as fast, violent, physical, and taking the ball away. He talked about being able to play fast, present problems for the offense before the snap, but then keep execution simple after the snap, which I think probably that's a thought that occurred to him after watching some tape of these corners he's got to work with this year.
And
frankly,
by golly, if that's not Edgerrin Cooper's music a little bit as well.
Well, that's exactly where my mind went to after the corners.
Yeah.
It's like the corners and then Edgerrin Cooper. I do think the cleanest schematic change, though, is going to be in the safety structure. Jeff Hafley loved to play a middle of the field closed defense. He played this past year. He played about 52% of the snaps were middle of the field closed. Gannon last year, middle of the field closed 46%, which was 28th in the NFL. So the days of Xavier McKinney living back there as a deep post safety might be gone. Obviously he can still rotate there, but a lot. I would bet he gets used a lot more in split safety structures, disguise looks, pattern matching. He's going to be probably a big role question in regard to like Gannon likes to play quarters,
Yeah,
and I think
and
middle of
don't
field open
fear.
structures. Sorry.
I was just saying, don't fear that like, oh no, Xavier McKinney's not going to get a chance to make. No, guys, when they're in a tricks coverage where it's a 3-by-1 and he's able to poach the first guy rolling across the field and he gets that pick from a play like that, you're going to be back in. You're going to be back in immediately. Because
It doesn't have to be bad.
No.
The Packers are probably going from like McKinney as the eraser in the deep middle to McKinney as the movable chess piece in a split safety disguise.
Right, exactly. And I think, again, kind of to the point of like, he didn't just kind of, when he went to Arizona, do things his way. Again, you look at Budda Baker's alignment in the league. Basically, other than like one season back in 2018, he would move everywhere. Like legitimately everywhere. There really wasn't a dominant spot for him. And you look at like, especially his second year, even his first year though, with Gannon, he had 380 at free safety, 267 in the box, 92 in the slot. Following year, 454 at free safety, 421 in the box, 165 in the slot. So like he just was kind of for that team. It was like, okay, Budda Baker, you're my chess piece. You're moving all over the place. We're not gonna we're not gonna pigeonhole you to a spot on my defense. What I like to do. You're extremely effective when you move all over the formation and create havoc wherever I send you and wherever previous coaches have sent you. We're doing that. We're not messing with that. That is effective. We're going to make that work. And so I have to imagine, right, an Edgerrin Cooper who is mug up and blitz, mug up and drop, be the pole runner in Tampa 2. He's not going to be like, oh, we're never going to do that. Again, especially in a quarters look, right? It can look like quarters. It can turn into Tampa, it can turn into palms, all that good stuff. The 2 read, it can look different, right? It went after the snap than it does before, right? You're gonna have a lot of options. Watch Brian Flores' defense; they do this all the time.
Yep.
And I think that's going to benefit Cooper, where it's like, okay, we might run these 3 things when we're in the 2 safety shell. But here's what you're going to be doing on all of these. And he's going to feel comfortable that he's, again, I think maybe even more so than when he played with Quay, who I think, again, Quay was doing a very solid job of being the Mike, but a guy who has plenty of experience being the Mike linebacker going, I know what I'm going to put on Franklin's plate, and that's going to allow you to be you in a lot of scenarios. I think that is what you want. That is what you want. I guarantee you Gannon knows the safety room is a strength. And I guarantee you he's going to make sure that it stays one with how impactful they can be as a unit. Like, that's not going away. So
I have a question.
And again, he knows he has Micah Parsons coming back, right? Like he knows he has Micah Parsons coming back. He's got one of the best pass rushers in the league. So he's about, all right, well, we could look at all the things we could do. Look at what Hafley was doing with him. Look what he was doing in Dallas, right? We're going to incorporate some of that. I guarantee you, you know what? Good for him. He's not doing no press conference. He's probably drawing up a bunch of stuff of like, all right, when these guys are in and when these guys aren't back, this is what we're going to do. And that, guaranteed. He's thinking about all the potential star power on this defense. Again, it's not in the corner room, but it's elsewhere. It's I think it's in every other spot on this defense. So I think that should excite him, and that's probably why he just doesn't care to be in front of the camera. He's like, man, I got work to do. This is a team that had a lot of expectations after they traded for Micah Parsons. I would like to help them get back to where they thought they could be. So if that's what he's doing, love that. You know?
Can we talk about the sort of give and take, push and pull of linebacker versus safety?
Sure.
Because if we're looking at Arizona Cardinals Gannon and saying like, okay, what can we throw away from the data that just you can't project forward at all? The first thing I think you'd be tempted to do would be to look at the really heavy dime usage in Arizona. Okay, like, so Hafley was in nickel
Garrett
around
Williams.
63% of the time, and he only played dime 4% of the time. Understandable, he didn't have any corners. Gannon only used nickel 44% of the time, and he was in dime or other very DB heavy alternate personnel packages over 20% of the time. And so I think you initially would be really tempted to say that doesn't have any bearing on what they're going to do in Green Bay because of how crappy the cornerback room is. But if they're going to be playing nickel, you think they're going to have how many linebackers are they going to have out there, and who are they going to be? I mean, we're going to be playing some 5-man fronts pretty frequently. You're going to have Colin Oliver when he's out there, probably closer to the line of scrimmage. Are we going to have also out there a Tyron Hopper or Isaiah McDuffie, or are we going to have all of our safeties out there and still be playing a lot of corners? Like, what do you think that give and take is going to be regarding the kind of thin linebacker room and the kind of thin cornerback room and loaded safety room? I think between those three, they're going to have to find a balance, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Gannon kind of find a set of guys that he feels really comfortable with, and then just have them out there for just about the whole year. It's what he did in Philly, and it's what he did in Arizona. Like, they're just guys who just don't come off the field hardly ever, and you just kind of mix up where those guys stand and what their assignments are, but it's still kind of the same guys. Am I talking crazy, or is it possible that this really is a clue that the personnel that he had in Arizona, it might not just be a, hey, they had a bunch of corners and nothing else, but there's nothing that we can take from that and project forward and learn about what he's going to do in Green Bay this year?
Yeah, I mean, in regards to linebacker safety, I mean, I think I think Philly's potentially a good unit to look at in that regard, where it was like, yeah, linebacker room's not. I think it's might have been even weaker, honestly, than this Green Bay version. And so, I do think you're gonna. Again, I think it would be great. I think Gannon would consider a success if Cooper and Franklin are healthy the whole year, because I don't think they're going to be off the field very much. I imagine that those two are going to probably see the lion's share. Probably more than anybody but maybe McKinney. Like, I think that's what you're looking at here. Of like, if you look by end of season, who's got the most snaps on defense? It's probably McKinney and the two linebackers. All health being equal. So, yeah, I think in Arizona, when you look at it, the DBs were better than the pass rush, for sure, and the linebacker room, all of it. So if and that helped them be able to move Budda Baker into a pseudo linebacker look enough times to be effective, because they're like, all right, we can work with Garrett Williams as a slot corner. Like, that's doable for us. Like, he can handle himself there. Where it's like, okay, then Budda Baker can move around. We can pick on a matchup that we like over here. Baker, you're going to blitz from here. Like, they're the right side of the line. They don't pick up stuff well. Like, we're going to attack here. Like, I think that allowed him to kind of do what he could do with Budda Baker, and knowing that, again, everybody else in the corner room's fine. We can work with the corner room. We need to help the pass rush. And so, like, that is why I think you're going to look at, some of these DBs, these linebackers early in the season, where they go, we don't have the juice right now as a pass rusher. And again, hopefully LVN is taking steps and we're seeing it.
Yeah.
But he can't do it by himself. If White and Parsons aren't out there, kind of going to be potentially a one-man show out there. So it's like we gotta help them out. And again, that can lead you to, okay, we're going to have, as you said, maybe we're going to have more linebackers out there. And then Colin Oliver becomes a part of the 5-man fronts. And that's how, we're going to maybe pick on some teams. Or it's, yes, I would love to be a middle field open team, do a lot of quarters. However, can't do it. Can't get after the QB. Boom, here comes Evan Williams rolling into the box and Bullard kind of doing what I said earlier of like kind of let's recreate some of what made Baker so good in these two, and we're going to generate some effectiveness near the line of scrimmage. So, yeah, I just think it is. I don't think we're going to have like a really good handle on the defense through a month. So yeah, which makes it fascinating. I get it. It's also concerning.
Some injured players coming back though.
We should after a month, and I think that will, if we see a major shift, that's where you go, okay, kind of what we talked about at the top of this discussion, where it's like, yeah, what the early stuff could look like versus the later stuff. But again, I don't think he's going to completely do away with everything, especially if there were things that were effective. So it's going to be fascinating. I know it's a little unnerving for fans. They'd love to know what it's going to be immediately. But again, if the horses aren't there at the beginning, they're gonna save for the horses in the back, when they all get healthy. So, as far as the corner room goes, do you think we see any rotation in for the young guys at all? Do you think we see them early in the season, or is that more of a, hey, we're gonna wait till the pass rush is better and we'll get the rotation rolling later? Like, I don't know. That's maybe the most interesting question that we haven't answered yet.
I wonder, in Philly, he obviously had just the same two guys out there all the time, and then occasionally mixed in Avonte Maddox. But those also were established guys, and the Packers don't have established corners. And Gannon has no loyalty to freaking Keyshawn Nixon or Carrington Valentine or anybody.
Yeah.
This is a blank slate. I think that unless the veterans really separate themselves this summer in training camp, I see no reason why Gannon would not be experimenting and rotating through to figure out who can execute the assignments I'm giving him, who can work together. They're probably not going to play as much zone as Hafley did, but they'll still play predominantly zone. And you got to have guys who are communicative and comfortable passing the guys off to each other.
And diagnosing what's going on to then communicate, which is where I have some reservations.
You should have a lot of reservations about this cornerback group. It's still not a good room. I think that the defensive tackle room is miles better than it was this time a year ago, before the Kenny Clark trade, and certainly after the Kenny Clark trade. I don't think that the cornerback room is a lot better than it was. I probably had more doubts about Nate Hobbs than anybody else did about him. But it's kind of hard to argue that it's not just sort of a lateral move, Nate Hobbs to St. Just or St. Just and Cisse.
Yeah.
It's a pretty lateral move there. You're hoping you can find somebody who can come in and give you more than what Hobbs gave you, which was like, it felt like 60 snaps and 3 touchdowns. That's what it felt like.
Yep. It's very true. And again, that's as you said, Gannon shouldn't have any prerogative to say, yeah, we got to start Valentine and Nixon. Like, one of them is 7th round pick, and again, his contract's up Like maybe he plays better. Contract year. Could happen. Or Nixon, who a guy who's, had some good games but has had the exact opposite on far too many occasions. Yeah, I mean, if St. Juice, good zone corner, good match corner, like I know it's not like he's probably not going to be like a home run, but it's
what's
a level
his
of
competition?
it's a
St.
level
Juice
of
can't
unknown.
possibly dethrone who?
Right. It's an unknown that potentially Gannon might have a better idea of what they can be with what he's trying to do. Right? This is maybe a little bit of the other part of like, okay, when I look at this corner room with what I'm envisioning to do based on the strengths of this team, who do I feel like can handle what I'm going to put out there on the plate the best? Who can handle it the best? That's the only thing he should be asking, of course, is who can handle what we're going to do. And what we're going to do obviously could be a lot of different things, right? We could see, as we've mentioned already, like some different elements and versions of what the defense is going to look like. Could be like a 3-act play type of thing. So
sure.
So with the corner room, it's the corners. I don't think he necessarily needs to be like, hey, I need to get you in the best position to be successful because like you're one of the dudes in this room, right? He's having those conversations are Micah Parsons, Wyatt, Cooper, and Franklin, the safeties. The corners, it's like, all right, who can hang on the best out there? Like that's it. We're in match coverage. Who can hang on the best? Who can see it? Who can communicate? As you said, like this should be as open as it gets. Like if Damani Jackson and St. Juice win the jobs, great, cool. They won it because they were better than everybody else. Great. Sweet. If that's how it goes. So, fascinating.
Thank you
for sure.
Thank you, Bill, for the super chat. He sent a $2 dono. It said, the cornerback room will depend on the coaching. Appreciate the donation. I do think that I do think it'll be interesting to see how the coaches decide to handle the room. Because certainly, as we were just saying, it feels like such a level playing field of you should be willing to give a lot of different guys real opportunities. And I also wonder, do they move Bullard into the cornerback room? Because the Packers have talked about him as a corner at times. Is that something they do? He's listed as a safety on their website right now. He has not always been listed as a safety. But if he's is out there as their nickel all the time, is he going to be a corner nickel or a safety nickel? You can play a couple different ways. I would be interested to see that because there's a lot of the year last year where we were just going, it's crazy they're only playing 2 corners the entire freaking season. But also Bullard was out there. And so if you take off your goggles of, hey, I'm evaluating the team a certain way because this is who these players clearly are. And if you instead say, all right, let's squint and try and imagine how the Packers see it, maybe they think they are playing 3 corners out there all the time.
Yeah, I think, well, to your question of like, do they see him, how do they see Bullard, right? I mean, the nickel corner has to be a corner and a linebacker. That's why it's so valuable. That's why you're seeing teams chase it, because it's a lot to handle. Got to be quick, stop starts, fluid in coverage, have to be willing, able, and physical enough to fit the run like a linebacker. That's why it's so important. That's why guys like Nick Edmond Warrior are playing there. Right. Oh, we got the best out of him because we know he can do these things. Boom. Cooper DeJean, you're playing there. Like that's where we see you. That's who you're going to be. And so, could Pons do that for the Jets? Absolutely. So like that's the thing with the nickel position is I think it's far more important than we even maybe realize, where it's like you have to be a linebacker and a corner, which makes it very difficult. Honestly, probably more difficult than it is to play outside corner, especially if in schemes that are, asking the outside corners to kind of like, you're going to be carrying the 1 or the 2, whoever gets depth, whoever gets that depth, you're just kind of picking them up, right? Whereas the slot corner is like, all right, no, we need you to be you need to have your eyes on the run fit, but also, make sure you're not getting dusted with a lot of scrimmage if it's not a run. So the nickel position, it's obviously Bullard's to lose, and I think he just has to continue to, one, be up for the fight in there, which I think he is, and 2, I think take the coaching of a Babich and Gannon to heart of like, hey, I can, I think if they're talking about him at corner, that to me that means they feel like they have enough confidence to at least play slot corner then, because you have to have the corner skills, and I think you have to have, again, kind of what you bring is a linebacker, hitter, tone setter, but play under control. Like, I think that very clearly they have enough confidence in him to do it. I'm excited for him, because I think you have coaches in the building now who might be able to kind of lean in that direction of like, hey, we know how to get that extra gear from you. And it's kind of like, who else is playing that spot? Nixon, I guess. Like, he's the other guy that can play the spot. Like, I don't.
By the way, I think
I know people are going to say Cisse because obviously he says he feels comfortable in there, and Green Bay mentioned it right after they drafted him. Like, we can see him as inside, outside. And I get the run defense, the tackling's pretty good. Listen, everybody knows my reservations about the footwork, though. So, but again, Bullard should win this, and I'm excited for him to hopefully, as I said before, kind of become part of this aggregate of a Budda Baker that does everything you could possibly ask for out of the position. So.
And I did just want to say, I think we'd be remiss to not mention, since we're talking about the cornerback room and the coaching, the cornerback's coach is Daniel Bullocks. Bobby Babich is our pass game coordinator and right, DB coach. I think he's, in practical application, he's going to be the safety coach.
But do the safeties need more? Who needs more coaching? The safeties or the corners?
Well, I can tell you who's not going to be working with the safeties that much. Daniel Bullocks is going to be working with these corners who we have so many questions about. So
there's going to be one day training camp. Babs is like, you guys, I love you guys. You're good. I got to go yell at these corners a little bit more. We're going to get one of those days where McKinney and Williams are just kind of hanging out. They're chilling. Bullard's kind of hanging out with them, chilling. And the corners are just getting absolutely screamed at in practice. I feel that coming.
You think it's only going to be one day? Just one day?
No, 1 month, maybe. 1 month. I think that's a lot of it. That's what's going to happen, where it feels like, asking people on the grounds, who got chewed out today, when they're going through coverage stuff and installs on defense, who's getting yelled at? It's like, oh, come on.
Sometimes,
who do you think is getting yelled at? Where is Babich having to spend his time? Boy,
sometimes those rooms that get screamed at the most
news to me
in the summer are the ones who play the best in the fall, though. We've seen that happen.
Well, then, they should be screaming. They should be screaming at them every second of the day. Every second.
The Packers,
even they should be screaming at them if they put the milk in before the cereal for breakfast before they run out there. Like that's it. Motivate the crap out of these quarters. Scream at them every second. Honestly, if that's what it takes,
particularly Keyshawn,
we got to do it. We got to do it.
Dude, if I could have one of these coaches on this podcast, I would play for them the clip of Keyshawn making that career move at the goal line to allow the Bear to score a touchdown. I play that and just sit there in silence and wait for them to address what just happened. Hey, listen.
Put on the Ravens
Packers,
game. the Ravens game.
I can't do it. I can't do it to myself. Packers are still going to be a zone first defense. They're going to have more man change-ups probably. They're going to play
For sure.
You would expect more match principles, more disguise. You thought this was one thing, but it became another. But for our last item before we get out of here, I do want to talk about the defensive front. I'm expecting that we're not going to see a real blitz heavy defense in general, and I'm also expecting that since Gannon is not coming in with some predefined scheme and he wants to let these guys play what is going to fit them best, I'm expecting that you're not going to see LVN and Micah Parsons locked into having to line up the way that some formal structured scheme is going to call for them to do so. I think if LVN wants to have his hands in the dirt or if Micah wants to stand up, I think he's going to let them do that.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it would be very silly to watch what Dallas was doing with Parsons and watch what Hafley was doing with Parsons last year, where he's sitting behind Wyatt, like, where am I going, and not have an element of that. It would be very, very foolish not to have an element there. So and even as you met with Van Ness, it's kind of like early downs. Yes, absolutely, he needs to be in a position where he can not get moved off the ball and, not let the line of scrimmage get reset, not let a combo block reach the second level, right? Be physical enough to kind of handle some of that, right? Not get kicked out by the tackle if he's going to be on the end, right? Like, I think Gannon will be smart about that for sure on the early downs. He's not going to. I don't think he's going to be, out of his mind with some of that. But as you said, when it's 2nd and 11, when it's 3rd and 8, all bets are off, 100%. Like, can LVM be quicker than the guards? Yes. Can he run over centers? For sure. Is Micah quicker than everybody else? No matter probably who, other than maybe a couple tackles that can match him. That's like it. And they're still going to lose reps to him. So, it'd be very silly to not take it. Yeah. It'd be very silly not to take advantage of some of those matchups. Yeah, 100%. And it's like, does that start to get into JJ's dream?
You're talking about Colin Oliver.
Oh my gosh, where's Carl Brooks? I'm sorry. Is he outside the tackle's shoulder? Hold on a minute here. So it just opens the door, right? And obviously Oliver and Sutton and guys that can move around the front, like, I think is going to be very, very interesting to see how all of that comes together.
Early in the year, it's going to be really fascinating because Javon Hargrave is going to be out there, and Jake, do you think you have any finger on the pulse of how soon Devontae Wyatt will be back? Because I don't feel like I have any clue at all.
I don't, which makes me feel like he's going to be back before the other two with the ACLs. But probably not that much before. I think you're going to see McClellan.
I think you're going to get a hefty dose of McClellan and Hargrave together to start the season. And then if Micah's not back yet, and I don't think he will be, it sounds like the Packers don't think he will be, it would be really interesting, like you're saying, to move Carl Brooks outside. Carl Brooks and LVN, and then, listen, do whatever the heck you want to with Denida Sutton and Baron Sorrell, but Colin Oliver is another one of those players that you just never think about. Like, Carl Brooks and Colin Oliver are like these, they're such tweeners, and I think that Gannon is the guy who just isn't going to care if you're a tweener. He's going to find a role for you.
It's going to be like, why haven't you been doing this? Why you guys been playing it so straight? Let's get a little wild.
I know what happened. He met Colin Oliver in the hall, and he's like, "This is you." And Colin Oliver's like, "Okay."
Colin Oliver's like, "Who's this guy? I see why you don't trot him out there for pressers."
Dude, I want so badly. I don't want this released to the public, but I want to see for myself some clips of Gannon just being a complete weirdo to some of our players.
Sure.
Preferably not like our superstars. Don't go annoy the superstars.
Yeah. You don't have to.
But go annoy Dennis Sutton. Go annoy
the rookies, all of
Colin
them.
Oliver. Go annoy the crap out of Carl Brooks. This would be so freaking funny. And then Keyshawn Nixon. Oh my gosh. I would love to know if Gannon is giving Nixon some crap. I want to see that so bad. He's such a funny, weird dude, and I both dislike him and really like him at the exact same time for the exact same reasons.
Yeah, you're gonna get the quirk out of canon of like a Sean Spencer, and then you're gonna get Babbage is gonna be like Carlton Lassiter for the psych fans out there of like just when he's had enough, he's simply had enough. And so yeah, just a little bit of I think fun contrasting styles there might really work. It might work. Really could. Is this Cope? Is this where we're at? Is this where we're at?
Well, I think it certainly is Cope because we were just absolutely baffled, I think, at just the way that the whole front office was viewing the team and the offseason and the situation. Oh, pause. Iowa Joe wants to know who is Gus. This is up to you, Jake. I can't wait.
I mean, okay, so all right, here's where I'm gonna go with this because I think it works. So Gus makes sure the head is shiny, right? You know, whereas Matt LaFleur got the haircut. Just saying. Looking spiffy, cool, a little smooth out there sometimes. I think that's where I'd go. Yeah, I have heard about Pluto, and it is messed up.
Is that a reference from the show, or is it?
It is.
I'm guessing it is.
Yeah.
Was it a reference to when they demoted Pluto?
It was a season 1 joke, which would not have been long after that demotion.
Okay.
So yes.
LaFleur was talking a bit about the defense and about his evolution since 2019. And he said about the NFL and about his place in it, he said, adapt or die. He said this year he really felt the need to go back to the foundation, strip everything down to the bolts, and make sure that all of his players understand the little details and understand the why behind every call. And he said that is the difference that separate those details are what separate the good from the great. And I do think that there is a very significant, striking overlap between that mindset and the way that Jonathan Gannon talks about the importance of execution and versatility and adaptability, right? We're going to build the playbook here. We're not going to force a canned scheme. We're going to test the players in the spring and see what they can handle, simplify it enough for them to play fast and adapt the system to the roster. But I also wonder, as LaFleur's talking about this versatility being a philosophical belief, I'm trying to see if players can handle multiple spots, and that adds value for them. Like, how much could this matter for the defense with Gannon's emphasis on flexible DBs, safeties, edge, up front, the multiplicity and versatility that he wants to have the outcome be simplicity after the snap and mass confusion before the snap.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it is wild that with all the bodies in the room, Green Bay could essentially play a 3-4 or 4-3. And they're comfy kind of either way. Which, yeah, again, kind of shows you like they're just front office, they're vibing, they're drafting talent, they're looking for the traits. No, when you were saying like, you know, LaFleur stripped it down to the studs and then just kind of getting to the why, I'm just thinking about that Eagle game, 3rd and short, 4th and short, inside zone. I'd love to know the why behind those, you know? Back when the crashing out started. Would love to know the why there. I do think that, like, again, for
My eyes
again,
twitching.
not saying everybody's not everybody's not smart enough to pick up on this, but just as a kind of just to make sure that everybody's on the same page. That doesn't mean the like 7-step drop vertical shot passing game is going anywhere. It's not. They have 4 guys in the receiver room, maybe 5, who get out of the field. It's like it's not going anywhere. 7-step drop stuff, and when Kraft is back, the unfortunate dilemma for defenses of like, do we go to the 7-step drop stuff? Do we match the vertical stuff? And then, oh no, the freight train has the ball. Crap, right? Like that, you got to pick and choose, buddy. So that's not going anywhere. And that's what made them so effective to start the season, right? And so when Kraft gets back, that's going to be there. But I do think, like, you know, for guys like Reed who have had up and downs, Watson, I think, has done a tremendous job with growth. Like, I think he wants to see that from everybody, right? He was, you know, Watson's just, I think, a really good example. Kraft stuck with it. I know his rookie season did not go how he wanted for, you know, 10, 11 weeks. Stay patient. He found it. Like, I think it's some of that why I think will help for these guys. I think it's, again, good to kind of back to the drawing board. How do we get, you know, how do we unlock that extra bit of motivation and energy and desire to execute the way that I know that LaFleur believes they can, right? That's not just an offensive thing, but as you said, it's a defensive thing as well. And I think that's maybe why, you know, him doing some introspection, you know, when the interviews came in, hearing, you know, maybe just again with Gannon, there was just more that aligned with what he was thinking about after the season, that he goes, yes, I see it. I think he's matching my vision of what I think, where we want to go from here. And that's why he's here. And that's why guys like Babbage are coming in. And so, it's very possible that that's kind of just where, you know, that introspection and then the interviews, just that aligned, and that's why he's here. And that's where, you know, you feel like, okay, we want that extra bit of, we're going to execute this better than we ever have. The motivation, everything is going to be focused on obviously the ultimate goal, but that ultimate goal being a microcosm of the ultimate goal in every single play. Executing how we know we can. Right? That's, and maybe, you know what, clip that. So then we could send that over to LaFleur if he needs, you know, that little extra bit. I'm happy to provide that for him. I doubt he needs it.
Maybe after Ed Policy comes on, maybe Matt LaFleur will come on too.
I doubt he needs me to spell it out. He got to, you know, the highest level for his profession, but I'm sure these are things. I mean, if you loved this thing and your desire to win, you know, which as fans, all of us have that, right? Like, how could you not, after this season, kind of just like, all right, what do I need to do? Like, what's missing from me? What's missing from my staff? Now, offensive staff, that's another thing. But it'll be interesting to see how this materializes. So, you know, shout out to the offensive staff.
Poor time
right there.
Poor time.
Shout out to the offensive staff. Besides LaFleur. So,
well, guys like Luke Getsy,
for sure.
Adam Stenovich.
Yeah,
mostly like the rest of the guys, but you know, Luke
would just love more new blood in the room regarding QB coach, OC, all of that. Would love that. Maybe that's the next
QB
step.
coach. What's that? Oh, you mean like Sean Mannion and Tom Clements, real QB coaches, or do you mean former wide receiver coaches like Luke Getsy?
A friend of number 8 coming back for year 22.
All right.
That guy.
So, listen, we had a really fun defense conversation. I appreciate, Jake, you helping us do that. Coming up next, we have some starred questions that we saved, comments from you guys, including a tight end question that Jake really wants to get into. But if you want to hear all that, you have to be watching on the YouTube live stream. So if you're audio only, you know where to find us. Go to YouTube, search up Packer Project, and you can
Third half.
hear the third half of the show. That's where we get into the fun questions.